Okey-dokey. I'd like to call the Fire District Board meeting of August 20th to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Burt. Here. Beckman.
Here.
Larry's absent. Verplank.
Here.
Phelps. Here. Meridian.
Here.
And Miller.
Here.
Okay. We have approval of the agenda, please.
Make a motion to approve the agendas.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, so we have approval of the minutes of the July 16th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of July 16th.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed? Yes.
I guess I got a question on Greg's. It says there was approval of a salary increase of 4.7%. Is that inclusive of everything, or does that include the 2% that was already in the budget? So is it 2% or is it 4.7 altogether?
Altogether.
Altogether.
That's correct.
That was the total.
That's the total,
Yeah.
okay, that's what I meant, okay.
The original
Take
proposal.
Right.
Okay.
These are your copies of the closed session. Read them. If you have any corrections, you're going to have to write them on there. And then we'll approve the closed session. But you can't talk about them. We should have done this in closed session.
I guess we can't talk about them.
You can't talk.
No.
So would somebody make a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session?
Well, what if we have an objection to something on there?
Well, then write it on there, and we'll have to approve them the next time.
It's just, I don't think I was gonna do that. My name's put next to something that I didn't.
I'd move that we give the Fire Administration Board the courtesy of reviewing these type of documents with more advance notice than a few minutes.
But we can't have these in the public, so you have to look at them at the meeting and then approve.
We should
They're
have
closed
had a
session.
closed session
Yeah.
meeting to discuss.
So in the future, I think the best way would be to have a closed session to review these.
Well, usually in the city, when we do this, we do the minutes as we do the closed session, and then they're approved then. And we could have done that.
Is there a reason we need to approve tonight, or can we approve next time?
You can approve them the next time, but I need the copies.
Right.
So if you want to make a motion to table the minutes,
How about table minutes and just look them for any questions they have or something, write them on there now and we can go over it then.
Yeah, let's table them to the end of the meeting. If you wanna look at what I have a question about.
I think
Though then
I
we're
will.
still gonna have to make
Yeah.
adjustments to it.
Yeah.
Right, so I guess,
So we're gonna have to
Go
table it
ahead,
until.
write down what you need to do it and then
Why don't we table till we figure out how to deal with this situation?
till next meeting.
Yeah. My thoughts maybe go into a closed session before, part of the, whatever we have to do, and then make the adjustments and approve it.
Well, maybe what we should do next time is,
Have a process for one
or
thing.
start the meeting 10 minutes
Yeah.
early, post
Right.
it that the first 10 minutes gonna be closed. Can you do that?
I'm not sure that you can. There's only a few things that you can do a closed session for, so.
I mean, I don't think this is one of them.
I don't either.
That's not one of the, it's listed.
Well, this is personnel.
It's personnel.
Sure, you
That should-
can, but
Sure.
absolutely.
You're discussing personnel, you're discussing the minutes.
Yeah, you're discussing minutes. not-
Well, you're discussing the minutes of the
Of a personnel
personnel.
review, yeah.
It's all part of the personnel review.
I agree with that.
Okay,
That's
well,
one
give
of
me
the
back the
exceptions.
minutes and then we'll do this.
Just do the next one. Quick questions on there anybody's got?
Or you put the closed session at the end of the meeting,
Yeah.
so that people don't have to leave the building. So just say basically the open part of the meeting is now adjourned and this board is gonna go into closed session. Everyone can leave, we can do our thing and be done. I'm just talking about convenience for
Yeah, I know.
people
I'm
here.
just wondering if we can do a closed session without announcing the closed session.
Well, probably not today,
Well,
but in the future.
Had you put in the minutes maybe that we were going to review these, we would have brought that up and suggested that it would call for it to go into closed session. So that on the next agenda, make sure you call out that the approval of the minutes will be in closed session. And then there'll be notice.
The approval of the closed session
Closed session
meetings
minutes,
will be
yeah.
enclosed.
Right.
Is there any public comment? You guys are guest speakers, so.
There's two motions on the table still, one for the regular minutes and one for the...
Oh, I'm sorry.
One
All
for the
those in
table and
favor,
closed
please
session.
say yes for the regular minutes.
Yes.
Yes.
And then the other minutes are tabled.
Right, right.
All those in favor, please
Do we
say
need a
yes.
motion? and a-
Yes.
Well, Aaron made a motion, did you?
Yeah, I've got a motion and a second for both of
Okay.
them, so, yeah.
Okay, sorry. All right, moving on. Public comment. And we have you guys as guest speakers, so you can do that in a minute. Is there any public comment on agenda items only? Okay, moving on to guest speakers. We have Stacy Aldrich, Abby Bigford, and John Helmut.
Sorry, Aaron. We thought we'd come up together and sort of share some things. And if you didn't know, Abby Bigford, Stacy Aldrich, most of you know me, John Helmrich, Bill Hester. Which one's Abby? Yeah. Not usually which one's John. And Bill Wester's couldn't be here this afternoon. We just wanted to come before you guys to both say thank you for serving on the board and thank you for the great team that serves all of us. And to remind you, if you didn't know, that there is a recall election in November in Saugatuck Township. This recall effort came about back in January, where the recall group had to go out in the dead of winter and try to get 335 signatures to qualify for a recall, and the group got well over 400 signatures, representing 25% of eligible voters in the township, and again, that was in January and February. Lots of people had lots of reasons for the recall. We all had several, some of them are the same. The people we met, there was quite a long list to make some changes with the 4 trustees on the Saugatuck Township Board. I think the two most important ones that we agree on are mending and improving relations with the fire board, because we're big fans of all the work you do, and we know there were some bumpy spots in the last year or so. We also want to mend and improve and move forward with the relationships between the 3 communities. You know, it's unacceptable that the 2 city managers won't talk to our township manager and vice versa, and, you know, it's too small a community. We want to work together. Those are top of our mind. The current 4 board members that the recall is against, they all voted to leave the fire code, as you know. They voted to change the ambulance service. They bowed to pressures from outside developers to ignore and overlook township laws and ordinances relative to these things. And they grossly, we feel, mishandled the situation with the township manager in terms of discipline and improving on some behavioral actions that were taken in the last year. So we're standing forth. We want to replace these 4 trustees. We want to bring in a new openness to the government in the township. We want to listen better not only to the voters and the residents of the township, but everyone, even people that live in Douglas and other places. So that's what we're all about, and being cooperative. So having said that, I'm going to let both Abby and Stacy say some brief words. And again, we thank you. We want you to know, I know not all of you live in the township, but some of you do, and you all have friends and acquaintances in the township. And we'll pass out some information on how you can get in touch with us directly or learn more about the campaign. So, Abby?
Sure. So thank you for having us, first of all. I'm Abby Bigford. I appreciate all the words that John said, and I don't want to be redundant on that. I'm definitely behind his message. Just to introduce myself, because I don't know a lot of you, I have lived in the township for 5 years with my husband and my 3 children. We love it here. My degree is in criminal justice with an emphasis in juvenile justice, and I worked for Allegan County Circuit Court Family Division for 15 years as a probation officer, as a diversion officer, as a supervisor, as a juvenile justice specialist. All my kiddos are adopted. So I think I would say I'm criminal justice with kind of a social work kind of heart. So that's kind of the creature that I am at heart. I am active in volunteering in my kids' schools. I'm active in volunteering at our church. I've been a 4-H leader in the past for many years. I taught therapeutic horseback riding to people with special needs. So I guess the reason I'm stepping up is there's a need, and I think that I have the qualifications to fill that need, and I believe that I have the time and energy at this point in my life to do that. I'm no longer working for family court. I loved it, but my kids were taking up too much of my time, and I have the time and energy and want to be adulting again, and this seems like a wonderful opportunity, and I hope to have the opportunity to work with you in a collaborative and cooperative way. Thank you.
I'm Stacy Aldrich, and I'm a lifelong resident, and I know most of you here. And I stepped up because it bothered me to see the division in the community, and I love Saugatuck Douglas Township. I have a hair salon, and I'm kind of winding down with that a little and feel like I have more time, and I've always been interested in local politics and decided this was the time to do it. So I'm probably got the least experience of everybody here, but people talk to me, you know, so I'm kind of the one that you can approach and teach me too, because I want to know. I love the community, the schools, the library. I'm just all about making Saugatuck the best place we can live. So thank you very much for having us.
I just want to say real quick, Abby and Stacy are running for the trustee position.
Yeah.
And I didn't even say, I'm actually running this time around for the treasurer, which I have not run for before, but just real quick, I know a lot of you knew I had a career in the business side of the TV industry for quite many years, 25 years, then as a consultant. Last 3 years, I've been focusing locally in Grand Rapids, consulting with nonprofit groups. But throughout that entire career, the number one thing I always did in these worlds was manage, write, and create budgets. I was always the fiscal, responsible person within these departments. So people don't always know that about me. They think TV and production, which I know, but it was always from how do you balance a budget, how do you create new revenue streams, et cetera. So I think I'd be very excited to bring those talents to the treasurer's job and work with you and others on economic development in particular. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
I forgot my card, so
Well,
I'll bring them to the next
we
meeting.
we won't let you
and stuff.
leave without one, right?
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having us.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on, we need requests for payments for the accounts payable.
I'll make a motion to pay the accounts payable to the tune of $92,96.73.
Second. Is there any discussion?
I had a couple. I know what the live fire training is, and I'm not even questioning a big explanation on that, but just curious how it's a huge bill this time, and, you know, is it paid for partly by the grants we got? Is it an annual thing? Just
Is
a
it,
little bit
is
of
it
an
the
explanation.
$17,000
Mhm.
specifically?
Yeah.
And that's a good, fair question. So the Live Fire Training Center was funded a number of ways. There were about $28,000 in donations still coming in.
Mhm.
But predominantly, the Live Fire Training Facility was funded by a collaborative effort with 6 of the 7 fire departments. The 7th one, Howland Fire, has not entered into the agreement yet. So each one, except for Clyde, put up $10,000. So what that bill is for the shipping containers that get modified. And the shipping containers become, in essence, a replication of a 2-story house. So the first one is actually the kitchen that's at the shade shop right now being modified. So the supplier in Hamilton had purchased them about 3 months ago, and they're a special hire cheap design, which is harder to get, and he's been carrying the bill for them. He's been carrying it for us, so he asked us to pay for them.
But the 17.8 isn't all on us, because the other communities are sharing these costs for the
Well,
whole
no,
facility.
that's not on us. It's
Right.
out of the line item for
It's
the
not
Live
like we
Fire
had to
Training
pay the
Center.
bill.
Right.
We do have a line,
That's-
I
that's
thought
what I was
we did,
trying to
a
clarify.
line item on that.
Right.
Yeah.
We had a separate,
Yeah, it's if you turn it over to the 3rd page, and it says fund totals, and it says out of the bill, 31,000 is us, and that's the regional training center, so it all came out, we have all the money set aside, 19.7, so there's 19.7 we took out of that, those coffers to pay for, I think it was at 17 grand, and there were some Aetna bills for like some, like, supplies and stuff to get Aetna, whatever they bought from Aetna.
Does
So, I
that
mean,
help?
there's nothing coming out of our line item, of our budget, it's totally separate, different fund.
Yeah, okay.
Who's
I
Karen
thought so.
custodian of the
I just
fund?
wanted to put it public.
Who owns?
The other thing I was just curious about is, I thought the timing was funny, winter storage of 3,800.
I have those
Seems
two
like that'd be at
questions.
the end of the winter you'd get the bill, not right now, because we're not already putting stuff into winter storage yet, are we?
The reason I did that was the substantial discount that was offered if we had signed up ahead of time. Even without the discount, it was $550 less than local.
That
So
was
the
my
incentive-
question.
Yeah, the incentive was about a $900 savings.
Stay ahead,
to-
but don't store now. Okay.
Right.
You go to Anchorage?
Yes, sir.
And
Does
then-
that answer your question? Ken?
Yes, it did.
Was that inside?
Yes, sir. We save about $1,800 not winterizing 3 engines, because we have 3 diesel engines now, 2 drive engines and 1 diesel pump engine. So it also affords us some flexibility of working on the bottom, you know, in better weather. So we thought we would try it this year and see how it works out, but again, it was about $900 savings. And we would have to pay for it September 1st in any event.
It's a great practice.
I hope that makes sense.
Are they gonna be as accommodating of getting the last boat in and the first one out?
Yeah, that was written in the agreement, last in, first out,
First
this
out.
spring.
I have a question on Bloom Slugget, Morgan. How many invoices was that?
Just for the month of July.
Just one invoice. How many different, what's it for? What was that for? What specific things were done by them for that?
Yeah, do we have specifics?
I mean, I can give you, I don't know, there's probably 15 different line items here. One's on fireworks,
Yep,
Hiller appeal,
right?
water supply issues, employee handbooks, more employee handbook, 135th Avenue, commercial development,
How much was spent on that invoice?
1837.50. I mean, they're all line item now.
Oh, there,
Yeah.
so we don't know how much was spent on that.
On which one?
Just that one incident, that one issue. There
There
was a number of hours.
There's a bunch of different, I mean, he wants copies of the, I don't know, are any of these being litigated? I mean, Okay, so I mean, we can make a copy of this bill, if you want a copy of the bill, or?
Yeah, I'd like to start tracking where we're spending our legal fees, so that would be helpful for me as a fire board administrator to know that.
I'll just scan it in Wednesday. and send
That'd
it.
be great, thank you.
Nebraska Fire Department, heavy rescue truck, what was that?
The Nebraska Fire Department Heavy Rescue Truck is a collaborative resource project with Hamilton Fire Department. Some of you may know, some of you may not know, when I came on board, I had a directive to sell our heavy rescue truck. I think that was a big mistake. Our call volume on motor vehicle incidents has gone up 60% each year for the last 4 years. So, rather than buy another $500,000 heavy rescue truck, I approached Graska, who bought a new engine and was going to retire this heavy rescue truck. So I said, why don't we go together on this? Then we approached Hamilton Fire. So 3 of us, they own the truck, they have care and custody, we're only paying for modifications as our budgets, it comes out of our maintenance budget. So like, we had to re-letter the truck, we had to add striping on the back. We have a cribbing trailer which has been borrowed for 5 years, and we would like to return that cribbing trailer. Cribbing is the blocking used to raise up vehicles. So all that cribbing, I was there this morning, that cribbing is going to go into this heavy rescue truck. So it's basically, it looks like a beer delivery truck. There's a generator in it, there's tools, extrication tools. One department donated 1 set of tools, we donated the cribbing. So there's an MOU for that, a memorandum of understanding for that collaborative project. As you are aware, we have a collaborative project for the aero board. We own 2 aero boards, and that was done with Graska, Hamilton, and Sarduck as well. So we saw an opportunity to fill a need, and we worked together on the highway so much for a fraction of what it would cost to replace a truck, so I don't want to replace any trucks.
So you have a memo of understanding that kind of outlines what each of our responsibilities are, and where
Yes,
our
sir.
liabilities are, and how we...
Yes, sir.
Did your insurance company give you a copy of that memo to use, or how did you get that?
Graska Fire Department, who has care and custody of it, went to their supervisor, I should say the township manager, and he drafted it in collaboration with his insurance company, because they're
Right.
insuring it.
Yeah, that's my... Okay, good, that's
It's a
excellent.
good question.
Yes, thank you.
Does that help?
Absolutely.
We were just there this morning, the 3 chiefs we met with, setting it up. And it'll be an ongoing project because we can't do it all at once. And it's being funded out of our maintenance budget. There's no additional line items.
Any other questions? Okay, Chris, this is a roll call now.
So Phelps? You made the motion, right?
Yes.
Okay, Phelps? Meridian?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Verplank?
Yes.
Rory?
Yes.
And Beckman?
Yes.
Okay, Peter, financial report?
Okay, we're into, I guess, week 6 of the budget. We really haven't collected any income, because the majority of our income is levied on the winter tax bill. Everybody sees the line items for salaries. Well, I don't know if anybody's got any particular questions, but so far we've spent about 8% of our approved budget from July 1st. Not a lot of activity from the standard large insurance bills and just payroll and some few supply, maintenance issues. I don't know if anybody got any particular line item questions or?
So with regard to salaries, I've begun, I'm making habit of when I get this board packet, forwarding it to our township board, so if they have questions, they can ask them on things like salaries. So now they should have everything they need going forward.
Yeah,
With respect to
yeah,
that.
I mean,
So
yeah.
thank you.
Not a problem.
Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you, Peter. Moving on, fire chief comments?
Okay, up on the screens around the room with surround screens, we have call volume. I'll go through it rapidly as I can. July, we ended up with 103 calls.
lot of calls.
That just shows what was the highlight in 2017 in July. That was a heavy month, 116 calls. That's what the purpose of that chart is. We're up about 15%. So kind of an adjustment. We were up 25 and 20%. So right now we're about 15%. It was kind of a slow week for a while, and then Johnny was on. John's been on 12 days in a row. And he got hammered pretty good Saturday on calls. Does a great job. He's filling a big void for us. So we're at 597 calls. This is your typical INFRS reporting, categorization of calls, fire, explosion. The most common is Series 300, which is your medical calls. Pretty much 60 to 70% of our calls are medical in nature. So this is a breakdown for the state of Michigan on how it's...
But this is our district, not the state.
Correct.
So of these calls, which would be covered by the International Fire Code, how many are on the spreadsheet as actual incidents that have occurred that have been affected by the township's decision to make the changes they did back in whatever it was?
November. I'll let Aaron answer because I've turned that over to him. One thing that we just got the data on today, if I could ask on that, is there's been 107 calls that would fit into the profile of the modification. That's something we didn't know before. We had to filter that out. Because not all the calls would be applicable. So since November 1st, there's been 107 calls, but you have the spreadsheet, so maybe
Do you want
you
to
can
talk about
answer
this now, or
that.
do you want to wait? It's on the agenda for...
That's fine, we can talk about that. I'm more interested in the actual incidents, not what might happen, but actual incidents, or not what it would be interpreted.
That's
as
what they,
impact.
that's what they have recorded,
Okay.
our actual incidents.
Great, okay.
Can I move on this? Okay. This is motor vehicle incidents by month, known as MVIs, personal injuries. So you can see where we're at. As of August 12th, we're at 48 calls for the year. You can see in 2016, that was a high volume year. That's for the whole year. So we still have fall and winter time. This is a calendar year chart. So it gives you an idea of what has happened. There's been 4 extrications. What's that what it means on the lower right-hand corner? 4 extrications so far. Motor vehicle incidents by the month, it's just a bar chart that shows activity. You can see in July, there were 7 in 2018. That's all that is. So far in August, we're even with the prior years. Special events. We're lucky in Saugatuck that the board and the community supports public outreach, so there's a lot of involvement. And in July, we did 7 events, and we're at 31 so far this year. A lot of events coming up. We go to the Douglas Elementary School. We've got the Halloween. We've got my Bald Head Challenge just in the next 2 months.
And those are strictly volunteer, right? You don't charge for anything?
We don't charge for anybody, no. And this shows fireboat incidents. This is call volume by area: Saugatuck North, Saugatuck South. And you can see Douglas, Grace of Douglas, which is our local nursing home, Township North, Township South. The highway was singled out because there's generally a lot of activity there. And then the outside of the area are mutual aid areas. So that's as of July 31st. This is a graph we like to see down. As you are aware, Grace of Douglas was kind of using us for lift assist and transfers. The board put an end to that, so we were hovering right around no more than 6, and we're right around 2 calls in July. That's what that graph is for. Overlapping calls is something the board would want to pay a lot of attention to. And it shows any call that occurs within another call within that hour. And you can see 17, we had 187 calls, and 16, 209 calls. So you're right now at 150 calls for overlapping, which means you've got to have the resources and the personnel to manage both of these situations. We had, I think in July, we had some calls, there were 3 calls at one time. And we never missed a call, so we're very fortunate. That's what that chart is about. This shows overlapping calls outside of the area. I mean by area, beg your pardon, by the area. Pretty self-explanatory. Personnel response. John Miles pretty much leading the whole pack there. And this is a typical protected property value chart that we were encouraged to draft. And it shows saves, property limitations on damage. Those are individual incidents that back up that documentation. That it, Eric? Response times. Under 6 minutes. We're really happy with that. We use geography in our favor. And we have first responders living all over, so that helps keep the numbers down.
That's it.
That's it. Thank you, Eric. Great job as always. May I move on?
Sure.
Want to let you know, community risk reduction, the state of Michigan has had another 16 deaths since last month. Pretty tragic, really. And this is something we track. As you know, Chris and I are on the statewide community risk reduction task force. So we're sorry to report there's been 16 deaths last year.
Last month.
Last month. Beg your pardon.
81.
Right. Next up, grant awards, Home Fire Sprinkler Coalition. We got $1,000 to help put on side-by-side sprinkler demonstrations, and another $1,000 to build a sprinkler riser display, which is really the valve flow switch configuration for sprinklers. And we really have Douglas to thank for that. Planning Commission, Dave Burdick. Dave introduced us to the Home Fire Sprinkler Coalition, and he was instrumental in getting the Home Sprinkler Coalition to consider funding continual demonstrations, because it really was for funding construction. We already built it. So we want to hope, a little help with building. So thanks to Dave Burdick. Chris did a great job writing those grants. Thank you, Chris. And that concludes my comments.
Okay. Unfinished business. Item A, Fire Board of Appeals status update. To date, Saugatuck and Douglas both have not appointed their members to the Board of Appeals. I think Douglas is doing it tonight, and we're doing it next week. But everybody has passed the ordinances for the Fire Board of Appeals, so next we'll get some members. And then after that, we need to write the bylaws. The members of the Board of Appeals are the people who write the bylaws for that board. Now, they can have our attorney write the bylaws, but they're the ones that are in the driver's seat as far as bylaws are concerned. So.
Yeah, I'd like to, that's the reason I passed on some information to the board. I don't know if you all received it. Did everybody receive all that information?
I received it and Kathy received it.
I do.
Okay, so if you pass it around, what it is, it's a starting point. It's basically a draft of what, if you, our zoning board of appeals has a similar type procedure. But I take a look at that, and that's just try to give this board, once they're appointed, a starting point, because they will adopt it hopefully at their first meeting. and then they'll vote for a chair. I'd like to try to kind of get that going, so in the background, I have been checking on the status, and happy to hear that on the 27th, you guys will replace one board member and appoint your Board of Appeals members. I wasn't sure about Douglas, but I figured you were along the way, yeah. So let's do that as a starting point. I think it's important to adopt a fee schedule if it's amenable. You know, we set a 400-hour fee for a ZBA. There's going to be costs. We may want to offer a per diem. That's our decision. I think we should, because they're supposed to meet regularly.
I don't think that's true.
What's that?
In the IFC, there is no per diem.
Well, it depends on what we're gonna follow. According to the International Fire Code Board of Appeals, there is no compensation whatsoever. So it depends on what.
Maybe could you each respectfully check with your municipalities, since it's your ordinance, and see if they'd be amenable to a fee schedule? I think fee schedule and per diems should be at least discussed. And fee schedule, because we don't want to have like just come for free and call a Board of Appeals hearing. That's not the best way to approach it. There's going to be costs outside of the per diem, which could be a number of different things. So I'd like to see us move faster than slower on that. So that's kind of why I've been pushing it.
Okay.
And I think it'd be prudent for us to do so as an administrative board.
Does
But-
the IFC have standard language for Board of Appeals bylaws or procedures?
No, it just says the Board of Appeals shall adopt the rules of procedure, so to speak. That's why the Board of Appeals is to be formed to draft the rules. And I called, just for instance, I called 3 municipalities that have the International Fire Code, and typically their Construction Board of Appeals handles an appeal. And the 3 I called, 2 had never had an appeal, 1 had one in 2004. So it's not a real common thing. And the rules of procedure seem to be very ambiguous and very Spartan as far as availability.
Well, if they're that ambiguous, how can they have any teeth? I mean, it's all arbitrary,
Well,
you know?
the code isn't, the code is not, but the rules of procedure seem to be, you know, more of, they follow the line of a ZBA or the Construction Board of Appeals.
So if someone appeals, they're going to appeal to the municipality, correct?
No, they appeal to the fire board.
Are you sure about that?
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Are they appealing to the because if you want something built, you appeal, you're gonna go to your zoning administrator, right?
Well, I personally think, in my opinion.
I'm just saying, is this a municipality?
That's
or
a
is
legal
this
decision.
Is this a fire board
Right.
Well,
driven thing?
Because we're forming a public act with the 3 municipalities, so I'm trying to get some kind of consensus on procedures, fee schedules, and that type of thing. So it would be helpful to have some kind of, I don't think it's just up to this new board. I think we need to give them some guidance, and we should. That's why I started with this
well,
rule of
members of
procedure.
the board are from the board, and I'm thinking, what I personally would like to see, I'd like to see us hold a special meeting and meet with our attorneys to talk about the particulars of setting up rules of procedure to make sure this board is set up correctly. I don't think any of us have the knowledge to set up the rules of procedure.
I think it's a great idea. You should do that. We don't even have to set a meeting. Just check with our lawyer and see if the list of the procedures I gave you, if that's even a good starting point. If it is, at least we have it. So we're doing something as opposed to waiting because nobody has time to do it. That's kind of what I'm trying to do.
Over the years, every time I've been rushed to make a decision,
I agree.
it has been a wrong decision.
I agree.
So I would like to see this done correctly,
Okay.
and I would like to see it done by our attorney. I want it to be legal, because I think this is a very important board.
Couldn't agree with you more. So that's kind of why hopefully we can get the ball rolling, and that's why that came out, in case you were wondering. I see that you thought that maybe I was trying to do this. I'm just trying to get us moving in the right direction.
Okay.
Sooner than later.
I guess my question to the chief is, how do you see this as a municipality, driven thing, or is this a fire board driven thing?
The Board of Appeals?
Yes.
Well, I think it's two-sided. I think who adopted the fire code is the jurisdiction. We're the interpreters and the enforcement entity to a point. But I think that's where you need an attorney to decipher, because we are a fire district, who extends into what, who crosses what boundaries. Because you get, well, you're enforcing my ordinance, you know, and you get those comments, you're referencing my ordinance and this and that. I've got references in here, 3 right there. So I think that you have to have a legal opinion on this matter is handled by either the jurisdiction or the Board of Appeals under the administration of the fire board.
Yeah.
So I think you have to have it declared by the attorney, the fire district attorney.
So we've
Like
got,
he says you have a fee schedule, that's for the township.
it would be nice if everybody adopted the same one.
Well, then it would have to be a fee schedule for the Board of Appeals.
Right.
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 That's a good recommendation.
Yeah.
Because if you
But
follow,
yeah, go ahead.
if you follow the Fire Code of Appeals, there is no fee.
I think it's
strictly
pretty-
forbidden. However, I appreciate what you're saying, because there are costs.
There are.
Otherwise, everybody's gonna be appealing here.
Recording legal.
And it's just like the reviews we're doing all this and at taxpayers' expense.
Why wouldn't you review if there's nothing, skin in the game?
So with respect to Jane, your concern about moving too quickly, I did this with the understanding that we won't even have adopted ordinances until, ours won't be until like September 9th.
Right.
You're probably very close.
Yeah, I'm not.
So we've got some time, so let's do that legal question. Let's get our people appointed, let's start to get them on board, maybe have a, orientation session, whatever.
Yeah, I
but-
guess I was appointed, wasn't I?
You are.
We need to
Congratulations.
have a first meeting
Welcome.
and discuss.
Thanks.
So, yes, we'll get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
As soon as we get members, we don't
Right.
have one, you don't have one. So
I mean, I've had some
members-
questions since they appointed me to Chris already.
And the township has been helping him out with
Yeah,
that, so
it's just,
just to get him up to speed.
So let's get Jeff involved and
Yeah.
meet with him.
Great, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
I guess I'm still confused about why somebody would appeal the municipality itself. What's the point of having a Board of Appeals? That's
Yeah.
why it was created,
Right.
for a neutral, 3 different people looking at it, not the entity involved in it. They're gonna vote to what's best in their mind.
I think it's a good question. I think that's
I
what
know,
we're
but
I
asking.
don't think that
But
sounds right.
where is it driven from, and how
Yeah.
do they go about
Do they go to their,
appealing?
do they go to your zoning administrator if they're building in
Oh,
Douglas,
I
or
see
yours
where it's
in
driven
Saugatuck?
from.
Where it's
You're not
driven from.
opposed to having a neutral.
No, I want a neutral, that's exactly what I
Who
want.
do you apply to? Where does someone go to say, I need to
I
appeal this?
got it, so
Yeah.
just procedure.
Yeah, it's just,
Got it. So we can go to Jeff to find out the
Right.
Yeah.
procedure.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, moving on to North Shore Residential Water Supply. Greg?
This was a letter that was drafted by the district attorney when I took all the information that was left from the May 21st board meeting from Mr. Bosgroff to go through the packet. And we were concerned, and this was brought to my attention by the district attorney before, we were concerned because there was no water supply out there. And we've been going back and forth on approval, not approval, and I'm not here to debate that. The letter's pretty self-explanatory. The lawyer said we really need to let people know that we didn't approve this and that there isn't a water supply out there as of yet, and there was concern for that since the water supply was required. Thus, the attorney drafted the letter. I did not draft it.
But you did request it.
I did request it.
Okay.
I did request it for clarification. I sent everything that was left at the board meeting, and I sent that to him for review and said, what did we miss on this?
So the legal review is in your packet.
So what are you asking us to do with this?
And I think it's
I guess it's.
For the record.
Yeah,
That they
accepted
didn't
as
approve.
information.
Information, right.
So
Goes
it-
in public record.
And our standards that we have, our fire department under Greg,
Right?
his standard that it was not accepted by the fire department. Is that not correct?
I guess I don't.
What do you want us to do tonight with this? I got this Friday at 6 o'clock. I read through it and had a lot of questions about whether this is valid or not. Some are on their surface not right. It would be hard for me to say I want to approve this. If it's to make it public record, this is on the website, it's public.
It's already public.
It's out there. And what more do you want to do with it? And I'd like to review something like this before it goes public, either in closed session with our attorney or something, because I'm not sure about this one. As a fire board administrator and as a township board member, I know facts to be a little bit different.
Okay, well, we can bring Jeff in and go
Yeah.
into closed session.
Well, at this point, it doesn't matter, it came out of the bag,
Well, there
so
should be,
the
there
damage
should
is
be a
done.
meeting on this subject all alone, because, you know, the thing of it is, if there's no water supply out there, there's no water supply out there. There's no, what are we supposed to do? And I think that shows that people need to know that. The board needs to know that. And the fact remains that with no water supply, our hands are pretty much tied with what are we gonna do out there until it's out there. And there's construction taking place. And this has been, people are sending me photos and everything of the construction going out there. We don't go out there looking for this. So this was a statement, and that Jeff advised, twice he advised me to do this.
Yeah, but this is not an official legal recommendation. This is him saying, this is what I know based on what you told me is going on, right?
This is based on what was sent to him right here, the packet and all that.
This is a dangerous document to go public with before any type of review. I really think in the future, it would be very wise, I don't know who approved this, but get some approval, go into closed session with an attorney, understand what's going to be in it, so we can make sure we have our facts straight before you make it look like a legal document and make it public. I don't think that's a good idea.
I didn't take it as a legal document. I mean, I took it as a reading, so to speak, that is bringing information to the fire board that I didn't know about. And
From the fire district attorney? I don't know.
Right.
And it's all out of the stuff that Greg's got, that was in that meeting.
So as far as sending it on to the township board, if you want to vote on that tonight, I'm not going to vote for it because you already made it public, so there's no reason to send it to the board, in my opinion.
The only part that I'm not clear on, you can debate facts of timing and all that, but is the last paragraph on the first page where it's sort of saying, here our official position is that the fire department has not given approval, and it's the position of the fire department that enforcement of the failure to obtain the required approvals rests the township. That sentence to me is, I don't understand it, the enforcement of the failure. I guess I don't understand what that's trying to do.
I think that what the lawyer is implying there, or is trying to state, is that the fire code is adopted by ordinance. Ordinance is law. And there was an expectation that he felt that the municipality, in this case the township, would enforce their ordinance. That's what he's referring to.
Now, again, another reason why I probably wouldn't vote to say that I wrote this.
Chris, even if you don't like the format of it, and you don't agree with all the facts totally, I think it's a bottom line thing for me. It's not approved. He is now stating, whether you thought he did earlier or didn't, he's now put it in writing through the lawyer. We haven't approved it. So to me, that's just base fact, and we gotta go from there.
And who are you, okay, you copied North Shore, so they've been copied. Because that's really who needs to be
Because you gotta fix
made
that
aware.
problem.
I had a
It's
problem
not
with,
approved.
just the fact that, like, it's the township board's fault, and
Okay, you
I guess I
didn't
have an
like
issue
the
with that.
wording.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I do represent the township board, too.
Right, but-
So, if you were in my shoes, you might feel the same way, I don't know, but
Well, I just had confusion about whether it had been approved or not, and here it is, clear as day, not approved, and that's a fact. And so I kind of liked it, that it was put right up there.
And I think there can be disagreement around, some people thought it was approved, some people
Right.
weren't, but I
Right.
think it's clearly stating from the perspective of the fire department,
Department.
it is not approved. So then from there, the steps could
Now what do we
dictate
do?
to how do we get official approval.
Right, that's where we're at, in my
So,
opinion. Cut
to-
through the chase and get on with the approval.
Like giving official notice to the Saugatuck Board that it is not deemed officially approved is appropriate to do.
I don't think it needs to go to the township board, I think it needs to go to the owner of the property, which is done.
Okay.
I
And
guess
it's been
that
made,
goes back
as far
to
as
the-
public record, it's already public.
I guess to me that goes back to the same question with the Board of Appeals, is what's the procedure for getting approval on a development? Does it go through the board, the township board, or does it go directly from the developer? If it's supposed to go through the township board, then they should be aware that it has not been given approval.
They went through their approval process, they went through their planning commission hearings, they went through all those processes, so they've done that.
So then I feel like it's still
So,
appropriate. to
as
go
far
back
as
to
the fire department approving it, we should be made aware of that. I don't know that we should. I think the person who it affects, which is the landowner, should. They should be made aware of it, but
You don't feel like your township board should be aware that the fire department has not approved?
They already
we
know.
already knew, we've known,
They already
we've gone
know
back,
it's not
we
approved.
tried to get the two parties to talk together, you know, and so, I don't
The
know.
township didn't go along with it.
So. Okay, that's all I've got.
I sent it on to North Shore, and I didn't send it off to Padnos. No, it's not approved.
Okay. Anybody else?
I wouldn't send it to Boscraft, I sent it right to Padnos.
All right. IFC spreadsheet.
Aaron, sir?
I can take this one. So I've been working with the chief around reviewing they've been taking detailed notes over the last, I think since January or longer, let me check, around, well, this is August 2017 through July 2018.
So August 2, 2017 is when the zoning changes were made, okay, and adopted.
Yep. So they've provided detailed notes of incidents that have come up that have either, where they've had to basically change behavior based on the amendments that the township made. So those notes are extremely detailed with who responded, what exactly happened, what they couldn't do. So I've been working to take that list and distill it down into, I guess, pull it up a level to say, if we have 3 incidents that are all sort of the same thing, how do we explain clearly what the implication is in terms that anyone can understand? Because they get pretty technical.
Okay.
So we're getting that list together, and I feel like we're in a good spot around that, around 9 or so implications that your township should be aware of. The step we were taking next would be, okay, based on those implications, what would we recommend you might change how might you amend your amendment? Because what we didn't want to do is just come forward and say,
There's 183 incidents.
yes.
We didn't want that either. That's why I've been asking for it for quite some time.
And we just want to say, like, here are all the problems, we want to come forward, here are problems, but here's what we think might help remediate those problems to everyone's benefit, so.
Boy, compromising, that's
That's what I'm looking for. I just want to be able to go to my board and to our zoning administrator and say, here's some actual things that have happened. What do we need to do? And that's great. Thank you for putting, here's some recommendations, because that would be helpful.
So that's what we're working on this week, for me, Thursday morning, to talk through the recommendations.
And then that should be a regular document reviewed on a regular basis, so that,
That's our goal.
yeah, because now we're what, how many months into this?
12?
Wow,
No.
that's just what we wanted to avoid.
Wait a minute. The 2015 was not adopted till November 1st. They adopted 2012, so let's be accurate here.
Okay, it's not quite a year.
So by next board meeting, we should be able to review, here's the implications and here's recommendations.
These men a number of times.
103 incidents, did you say, 100?
Well, what we reviewed is more like 15 details, so I'm not sure what that 100...
What that means is, say we did 537 calls, you know, and maybe 300 of those are township. They don't all qualify. Some of them are boats. The fire code wouldn't be applicable to certain calls.
Right.
So where the fire code is applicable, the modification would be 107 calls. That's where it's applicable. That we found 9 where we wish you would change this. Is that fair to say?
So there are 107, I guess let me restate that so I understand it. There are about 107 incidents in the township that the fire code, the International Fire Code, that fall under the International Fire Code. Is that?
That would qualify, yeah, correct.
But not all of those present problems.
Correct. Oh, yeah.
So
I
what
want to
we-
make it clear, that's not 107 problems
Yeah.
at all. All it is we're going from a pool of 107 calls, where do we have some issues where we would hope the township would consider changing that?
No, are they actual problems, or are they things that you think could happen?
We have, so
No.
what we have is a list of about 15 actual problems.
Thank you, that's what I wanted to know, actual problems, because then we can find solutions. If it might happen, let's wait, you know, we'll see that in the future list, but, okay, because I don't want to spend too much time, and I hope you haven't, coming up with what could happen versus what actually
No,
has
no,
happened.
we're trying to be
Right.
realistic on this and what did happen, not what could.
Good,
You know.
that's what I'm looking for, and that's what I thought our purpose was here with
Yeah.
this whole thing. Great.
That's about 14% of the total calls, so it's kind of worth taking a look at.
Thank you.
We're set with that. Moving on to new business, we have a funding approval request for a thermal imaging camera. Greg?
Yes, so, in our ongoing efforts, thermal imagers it shows hot spots. Let's just call it a camera that shows hot spots. We can find people in a building, we can find fires in walls, attics, all sorts of things. And really what this is we had budgeted for it. This is to put a thermal imager on our aerial ladder truck. So it's out of the long-term capital plan. It was budgeted for, so we're requesting your permission and your approval to proceed with the purchase of a thermal imager camera.
I'll make a motion to approve the funding for the thermal imaging camera.
Okay, we have a motion by Phelps and a second by Meridian to purchase a thermal imaging camera for $7,199. The roll call vote?
Yes. Any other discussion? Phelps?
Yes.
Meridian?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Verplank?
Yes.
Rory?
Yes.
And Beckman?
Yes.
How many cameras have we got now?
It'll be-
We have usable, we have a real old one, we have 4. And we have one in the command vehicle I run, and then the engines. And where they're really vital is when you do a walk around, which is called a 360, when you're first on scene on a fire, you use those to go around the building and you scan and you look for, try and find the fire. You're looking for people trapped, you're looking for the fire because that camera will show that. So on commercial, typically the first out truck is the aerial, and that's why there isn't one on there. So it's our last, then we'll go into replacing them. It's our last set up the truck with a thermal imager.
Do they still take that special gas operator, or have they got that now down to a chip? We used to use argon gas or something, you had to turn it on, it had to be replaced, very expensive to run.
All like a computer.
Okay, great.
Really phenomenal tool.
The prices have come way up.
Yeah, I think our
That's
first
probably
one
why.
was $32,000. We still have it too.
The Alpha one?
Yeah.
With that being said, is it state-of-the-art, is it,
Yes. And the brand we're using, Plura, we like even better than the other brand, MSA.
okay.
It's more bang for the buck, more clarity on the screen, because it's a small screen, and when you've got your vision obscured, we can find a firefighter trapped inside a building or a person. We even had a call to use one, and we didn't have it on the boat because we don't have one on the boat. We were trying to find a downed pilot on the lake 2 weeks ago, and the sheriff asked us if we had our thermal imager on board the boat. We don't keep one on there. You can also find missing people in dunes and woods. Does that make sense?
Well, okay, second under new business is Firehouse Subs grant application approval. We need an approval for a grant.
You may not know, I don't want to make it sound like you don't know what an attenuator is. A attenuator is like a crash device that's towed behind a vehicle to protect the people on the highway, so it absorbs the shock. And it's something we want to try to get with a grant and not funds. You know what we got going on here on the highway. And we really thought, Chris and I learned about Firehouse Subs and their granting programs, so that's what we're hoping to do. And if it doesn't work out there, we're going to try FEMA. We're going to try everybody we can for an attenuator. So it's a crash device that absorbs the shock of the vehicle, like a trailer.
See that at the back of state trucks.
Right. And we would pull it behind one of the tankers.
I would move that we approve the grant application for a traffic attenuated trailer in the amount of $28,380.40 to be fully funded by the grant if awarded.
Second.
So motion by Rohrig and a second by Miller. Is there any discussion? Is there any more discussion?
I still am a little confused, I guess I'm not. It absorbs crash, but does our stuff get crashed that often? I mean, what do you...
Chance of it.
Yeah.
Chance on my car, on every single thing I own.
Yeah.
That's why you pay for the airbag that's in your steering wheel.
These are big airbags on the back of the truck that protect the driver and the truck.
You can't buy your car without that airbag.
Yeah.
Trust
It's
me.
well worth
That's a
having.
big safety thing.
It's a
Yeah.
collapse device that hopefully will minimize the impact to firefighters or vehicle.
Right.
That's what it is.
Absolutely.
Okay, just a roll call vote?
Yep, Brewer,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Beckman,
Yes.
Phelps,
Yes.
Verplank,
Yes.
and Miller.
You did that twice.
What about me? Yes.
Meridian. We got the other M on that side of the table, I'm sorry.
About time Firehouse gives them some money back, I give them plenty.
Sorry about that.
Okay, moving on to item C, law enforcement agencies' use of the facilities.
I had just brought up, and it had come to our attention at the office, because people drive by here, that, the new police department is housed at the fire district. I said, I don't think that's the case, but we'll look into it. And asked the chief, and Congressman said, no, we do this on a regular basis. However, in that exchange of information came the fact that in addition to parking vehicles here, and not just the sheriff, but other law enforcement agencies have use of the facilities, are going to be in the facilities, yada, yada. And I know this because when the fire board kicked out the state police and we had to take them into the township offices, our sheriff's agency said, you've got to have something in place. They have all kinds of guns, they got all kinds of stuff going in your facility. You should have a memo of understanding, or in this case, we have a lease, which we renew every 12 years. And it spells out to protect the state police, the law enforcement agency, and the housing agency, which is us, from any liability. Now, our insurance carrier should either say yes or no, should we have that? I would check with them.
We already checked that.
And did they say? Yeah.
Okay, respond? Right, so, appreciate your comment on that. So, I wasn't trying to speak out of turn by letting the police come in here. So I reached out to MMRMA, our insurance company, and their response was, she sent me a risk transfer manual, and she said, in essence, she said that you already have the liability when people come into the building. When they drive on the parking lot, slips and falls, you have the liability. If you feel MSP, which uses our facility sometimes to search a vehicle, and Alton County Sheriff's Office, if you feel this is a risk, all right, refer to the risk transfer manual. The problem with this is it's for rent. it's not applicable. We don't charge anybody. So this, what she sent me, has no merit to it. So then I contacted the city and said, do you want me to contact the sheriff's office? And how do you want to proceed with this? So, I got this today, 3:30. I've contacted Allegan County, went to the county administrator, Rob Sarro. And they've confirmed that if one of their deputies is injured while at fire district building, that it would be a workers' comp claim. And under those regulations, we are a sole remedy state. Workers' compensation statute bars employees injured on the job from making a tort liability claim. The benefits provided under workers' compensation are the sole remedy available to injured employees. I've asked Allegan County to supply the fire district with a certificate of coverage document confirming liability insurance so the fire district can have that on file. That should address any liability issues and offer the fire district adequate liability protection documentation on file. Is that okay? Will that work?
Is that what our insurance company says is acceptable? Then I'm fine with that.
I'll send that to them, but she said I don't need fire board approval on this, or we don't need fire board approval. She said, the risk was slips and falls, and she said, I've attached our risk transfer manual. She said, if you feel it's benign, nothing needs to be done. If you want to formalize facility usage, refer to 4 and 5. That's a rental agreement.
That's what we have in place with the state police.
It's not applicable. Well, we don't rent.
We do for free, but we still
Yeah.
rent.
We don't rent.
Yeah.
We don't rent.
They don't have an office here, they come,
Right.
they use the bathroom,
Okay.
they eat here, they,
So I think there
Wash
was
their
some kind
cars here.
of misunderstanding with perhaps the language that Jane had used, that they're using this as a base. We did not mean to give that impression, because they're
I
not.
didn't mean to give that.
There's no desk or anything like this.
They just
So-
go up.
But this is Allegan County, you said we got the state police coming to use our facilities.
Yeah, occasionally,
Same thing?
occasionally they come in.
I mean,
Well,
we have the same.
Well, that wasn't my decision. I've been here 18 years, and you've been doing it for 18 years.
They come in, they go through cars.
That was a
I
fire
understand that, I don't have a problem with
Right.
that. What I'm saying is, we've asked for the county, for their CYA, literally.
So you would have to do it
We
with
might
the
have to
state
do it
police.
as a state.
Is
And now,
the insurance company aware that the state police are doing that? You brought that up also? Or just the sheriff? Okay.
Yep, I sent that to him.
and the other thing is, it doesn't look good for, do we offer the facilities to Douglas in case
We
they have?
should.
I actually checked with our city manager on this issue, and I felt pretty comfortable after we were done. He said, facilities do this all over, always have, every city. People come into our building, the police, and from other districts, and he said, we have an Allegan County sheriff half the time sitting in Douglas for this and that. They use our bathrooms here at City Hall. This is just standard practice. It's done.
Yeah, this is a
So
public.
I felt
service.
real comfortable after talking to him that this is just a non-issue, basically, and it's okay for the little bit I've been described. No desk, all that, so.
There are no
Kind of
desks.
standard
Yeah.
practice.
It's strictly
So-
using the restroom facility, as I said, the lunchroom on occasion, that's all it is.
Right, so I just guess that's.
Trust me, as a township resident, I love having them here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really have the
Yeah.
best part of the deal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem, but, when you get these questions,
Gotta follow
sensitive
up.
questions, you gotta follow up, especially with the little
Yeah.
rift between the cities.
So what would you like me to do?
I think that certificate, that's what I used to do with steel companies. When my guys were on site, I would provide them, a certificate showing I'm insured, it was required for stuff in their facility.
I'll get that.
Just make sure everybody's covered with that, and I think you're fine. That's what the insurance company agrees, because they're gonna have to pay for it if it happens, so.
I will do that.
Okay, go ahead.
Done deal.
Okay, there's no correspondence. If there's anybody in the public that would like to make a comment, please keep your comments to 3 minutes, keep them respectful. This is public meeting.
Good afternoon. If I have 2 different subject matters, can I have 3 minutes twice?
One question.
Sure.
Are you gonna act like a professional this time, or are you gonna act like you did last time?
One more time?
Are you gonna act like a professional this time, or are you gonna act like you did last time?
I don't know, how did I act last time?
throwing your papers around, being real smitten, and...
I handed them to him last
No,
night.
you did not, you flipped them.
Now, let's drop it, guys. Let's
Let's
move
go on,
on.
I'm not gonna listen to it if you're gonna act like that again.
Okay.
Yes,
I don't really have anything to hand to him.
Well, just be professional.
Couple things. First, on North Shore's behalf, probably only two comments. Number one, it appears like we're caught in the middle of the same thing I'd asked last time that we didn't get caught in the middle of again. North Shore's development is controlled purely by a consent decree that identified the parameters for the development, and then it's controlled by the township. The township has approved the plans. The fire department was asked to input it. They showed up at the meeting. They put their input in place. It's a done deal. Number two, the water supply, the chief has said that he doesn't know where the water is coming from. The fire trucks downstairs do carry water. There's multiple townships and cities and municipalities that you guys are partners with that carry water also. There is water access on the property because it has water pretty much all the way around it. And there's two dry hydrants that are the temporary ones until we decide whether we're going to build a marina or not. That's probably the clarifications for the North Shore piece. The second part, I guess I would encourage, and this switches from North Shore to build SB, made an application for some building permits for pole barns off 135th here back in June. And as of yet, those have not been approved. Well, they've been approved by the township, but they've not been approved by the fire department. And I don't believe it's worth arguing today about how that's working, but I think that appeal piece is probably an important part and something that really needs to be put together and as quickly as possible, because it would definitely help. In the absence of that, I would even encourage maybe you have a third party that does the permit reviews. Maybe it's a former fire chief or maybe a third party expert, somebody that wouldn't maybe be influenced by the fire department that maybe has an issue with this township. And that would probably be beneficial for Saugatuck residents that are applying for things. That's all I have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, is there any other public comment? Okay, fire board comment? Anybody? Chris?
Nothing.
I had one person asked me about the rental inspections in the township versus the city, long-term versus short-term, and do we do the same thing, same place? And I couldn't answer the question.
The same
Do
criteria?
the cities, both cities follow the same criteria as the township as far as
Yeah.
rental, long-term and short-term?
It's the same rental checklist as far as criteria was checked,
Okay,
right?
okay, good.
Okay, Aaron?
I guess I have a question on the 135th Avenue, street or avenue. Issue is, I've not heard of that, so is there background on what that is?
It's a commercial development, and the question is, the way we interpret the fire code is that the water is to be extended. The water is on Blue Star Highway, and it's to be, when there's a reliable and adequate water supply in the area, our interpretation is to be extended within 400 feet of the building. The developer, Mr. Bosgroff, they feel it's too far away to extend it because it's expensive to extend it, about $100 a foot. So we even offered an alternative that, according to the code, this one particular code, and I don't want to get detailed here because I don't think this is your role, plan review. However, I will explain it in that I think that the NFPA 1142 isn't applicable because there is a reliable water source there. However, we can consider an on-site water source, and that's what Eric asked me to do, which we spent considerable time calculating that. based on the project. And we calculated, you know, there's a lot of water required, so that's a big pond, so an on-site water supply, the cheapest build-out from what we've seen and what we've heard would be a pond water supply with a dry hydrant on site. Then they wouldn't have to extend the water main underneath Blue Star, which is expensive for casing, and then they would have an on-site water supply.
I thought what I heard, and I may have misheard, is that so it has been sent to the fire department for review, and the fire department has sent back a decision?
We did 3 reviews on it.
Okay. I thought I heard it's been sent for review without hearing anything back, but
No, there's been 3 reviews on it.
I don't know if I ever got the
On-site water supply?
on-site alternative water supply. You gave me calculations, but it didn't really...
That's the one that showed like 191,000 gallons.
Right.
If we follow the code, there's 2 small buildings, 4 small buildings, and 1 large one, okay? So the way the buildings are, they're within 50 feet of one another, they're 20 feet, so those are all exposures. So you figure the whole size of that building, which is 23,000 square feet, the whole site. So based on those calculations and what we think it's going to be, stick-built, 2x4 construction or 2x6 construction, it would be 191,000 gallons of water. We even went a step further. We eliminated, or we offered, let's forget the 4 small buildings, let's just provide water for the 11,700 square foot building. That was, I think, 105,000 gallons of water.
So you provided multiple alternatives or no
We
alternatives?
calculated at Eric's request.
You calculated, did you offer the pond alternative, was that offered?
Mm-hmm.
You just said a pond, okay, I didn't know that. That's
I didn't know that either, I just knew that
But
water
other
calculation,
We wouldn't waste 3 hours of calculation if we
Right.
wouldn't
but
consider
that's
it.
what would be considered
So that's
an
on-site.
alternative.
So either on-site is either a pond or something large enough to hold
Right,
on.
or underground, you know, I think frankly, digging a hole in the ground
Right.
is a lot cheaper.
Right.
You just have to make sure it's lined if the water is going
Right,
to sink. through.
okay, that's good to know, that's the information
We calculated, said this is what could be done, we still feel our position is, however, going on record, we'll be more than glad to consider an on-site water supply.
What about, and I know this isn't the forum to do it, but what about the hydrant off 65th Street and going straight to the property? Doesn't he own the property? Instead of crossing Blue Star and going 735 feet, there's a hydrant right across the street from Linus's place. Wouldn't that be easier?
Sure, but that wasn't offered. My
I'm
God,
just, that's what I kind of want to know.
Wasn't offered.
That's what I wanted to know
Yeah.
as far as alternatives.
Because then you don't have that expensive bore.
So that's an alternative as well.
Right.
Underneath there.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But it was never even discussed, it wasn't even an option. And he has to come back, because his property, I think that hydrant is on Linus's property, he has to come back a ways to go over there.
So if
Unless we can get an easement from Linus.
Okay, but this really isn't a discussion for the fire board.
But there
Let's
are
go.
3 options.
But I like the context here, so I don't...
Yeah, 3 options. He could sprinkle it, okay, which is an option. Number 2, extend the water main, put an on-site water supply, or that hydrant at 65th Street, because then you avoid that casing
Yeah.
underneath the highway. But Word seems to be the ones making that recommendation.
Okay. Are we finished with this?
Well, I do have one more follow-up as long as we're on that.
Okay.
Who gets to decide? And this is where your new ordinance and what his authorities are, what yours are, confused me still. Is it him just gets to make recommendations and hope you follow them, or I thought he had control over everything except 4 houses and under sort of thing, so I'm confused.
This is a commercial property which under the township zoning is totally under the International Fire Code and must get approval from the fire official in order for occupancy
Okay.
or a permit to be given. So at this point, our planning commission approved the development. It's on a single parcel. with the stipulation that the fire department gave approval for
For the plan.
Right,
which
before
is
occupancy. So at this point, our zoning administrator cannot issue a building permit until the fire department gives approval.
Got it, that's what I
That's
wanted to know,
where-
the
that's where it's
bottom
at.
line. And he's given 3 or 4 options, or
I don't, I wasn't aware of that.
I'm gonna speak up. I've asked for options, I got water calculations, but to me, that's really not what I was looking for. I was looking for
That's just said.
a pond, which I didn't realize that's what those water calculations were, and that's my apology, because once again, I'm a
Okay.
salesman, not a fireman.
Yeah,
you wanna learn about sandpaper, we can talk for hours.
Discussing some of this with fire board members, because plan review process is up to the fire code official and the Department of Fire Prevention.
Right,
I'm not trying to withhold anything. You wanna sit down and talk about fire codes, I got 18 years on it.
But sometimes out of the mouth of the ignorant, you come solutions.
And as administrators, I think we're allowed to ask questions, just like you told me once in a
Sure, but
Yeah.
we had this
That's what I want.
conversation with Scott Bosgroff, why don't you consider a pond, why don't you consider sprinkling?
I think we need to have that
I
conversation.
agree.
But that's,
We did.
Okay,
okay.
good.
But that's a Steve thing, I believe, that's not you and I.
Any other fire board comments? Okay, this meeting's adjourned.
Awesome. Quicker than I
I never
thought.
knew a hockey game.